Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. Today we're going to learn how to paint a mandala. Before painting one, we need to know actually what it is. A mandala is a geometric configuration of symbols representing the spiritual journey, starting from the outside to the inner core. Mandalas are common in the Buddhist and Hindu religions. Currently, I'm displaying the sketches I used for making the painting. I did a different combination of geometric symbols, and I tried to make them symmetrical on both sides. If you want, you can mimic my end product shown here, or you can create your own, whatever you'd like. Now let's get to painting. Currently, I'm painting in one of the triangular figures in the middle of my mandala. I will not be showing you every part I'm painting in, as it is up to your imagination what you'd like to paint certain areas. However, I will be giving you some tips and tricks on how to create the best mandala you can. When I paint, I like to have a very thick coat of paint on my canvas. That is why when I'm making up the batch of a certain color, I always like it to be very plentiful, so I can get a nice thick and even layer. When you don't make a plentiful amount of one color, there tends to be a very thin consistency to the paint, especially when using acrylics, which is what I'm most familiar with. And it ends up turning out as a watercolor consistency, which is not what we are going for here. As an intermission, I will be mixing some paint, so I hope you enjoyed this nice and relaxing image. Just a quick note that in this video, I am using all acrylic paints, and I will list the products I use down below, including the paintbrush and this particular paints. However, use what you have and what works for you. For this mandala, I'm going with a very light color scheme with a lot of pastels and bright colors, as we are in the summer months currently in the Northern Hemisphere, and those are the colors I associate this time with. Now I'm filling in another one of the triangular figures with the pastel green I just made. As you can see in the frame to the right, there is a little bit of the pastel yellow that I created, and this is showing the overall theme I'm trying to go with very light pastel colors, especially in the middle of the mandala. To create this very soft or pastel color, a tip I have is to start off with white and slowly add the color you are wanting to achieve in small amounts. So, as you see, when I originally started with white and slowly added bits of green to achieve my desired shade. When painting your mandala, I encourage you to establish meanings for the certain figures and certain colors you use, as this will help respect the tradition of mandalas. For me, I'm putting very pastel colors in the inner core, as these colors are essential to my life, as they bring me a lot of happiness and enjoyment. Now I'm filling in with some green paint, the same that I used before, the pastel green, for a sort of stem-looking geometric figure for a plant. And I included these plants, or leaves of plants, whatever you interpret them as, because these provide me a lot of happiness in my life, as spring is my favorite time of year, and summer, where all of the plants are in full bloom. Continuing with my pastel color palette, I am filling in another geometric figure with a very pastel light blue. If you perhaps did not make your pencil markings light enough and it is showing through after you put on a coat of paint, I suggest that you wait a little while and add a second coat, especially with these pastel colors that show through the pencil very easily. Now, with a thick coat of light pink, I am continuing this color scheme as it provides me happiness and meaning, and I am filling in this geometric figure that almost looks like a bud of a flower to me. Now showing you what I was explaining earlier, I am filling in with a second coat of paint over the yellow, as yellow is a very light color, especially with pastel, and it shows through the pencil marks a lot. So I am showing you on this particular clip. However, I did this where it was necessary throughout the entire painting, and I suggest that you do that too. Now with a thick coat of green paint, I am filling in the area that is 3 layers from the center. And this shade of green is a little bit darker than the ones that I've previously been using, which indicates that I initially started off with more green than the other pastel colors I was using before. A tip I have for you when trying to navigate very small areas and you don't want to get a certain color of paint on that area is to angle your brush at the tip and slowly fill in the area. Or if you have access to a wide variety of paint brushes, I suggest you use different brushes in different areas. In this layer specifically, I decided to alter the pastel color scheme, and the colors in this layer I used are a little bit darker and give off less of that pastel look to them. And to me, this represents that nothing is perfect and things can be variated a little bit but still hold value and meaning. Now with the back end of my brush, I am taking white paint and applying it to the canvas to create little dots. For me, this is simply for decoration, as I have done this dot method before on previous mandalas, and it makes it look very dynamic and interesting. A tip I have for when doing this method is to always have a plentiful amount of white paint, or the type of paint you are using, to apply to the canvas. With not enough paint, the dots won't be full, and you will then have to retouch them up later on. Now, with blue paint and white paint, I'm going to be making a very pastel blue, so enjoy this segment. As you can see, I started out with a lot of white paint and a small little pile of blue paint, and this helps me represent how to make pastel colors. Pastel colors are mainly made up of white, and you slowly add the color you are wanting the paint to become. So I started with a white value and ended up with a very pastel blue by slowly adding more amounts of blue. Now with the pastel blue that I previously made, I am applying it to a band in the middle of the painting that goes entirely across. A tip I have for when trying to stay inside the lines that you have created is to, rather than use the tip of your brush, is to use a more flat area of your brush by turning it sideways. This will help you eliminate any instance of going outside of the lines. If you happen to go outside of the lines, like I do plenty of times, is to try to make it seem like that was your original intention. So if you accidentally go outside of the lines, then make that area your new border. Finally, I am working on the background. For the backgrounds, I love to have a plentiful amount of paint, and this time I have a pastel pink, And when applying paint to the canvas, I like to move pretty quickly with a lot of paint on the brush so the paint does not look too streaky and not cohesive. This advice comes into play when you are wanting to create a very color block background and you want it to look very cohesive. That is why you should always try to stay going in one direction as much as possible, have a plentiful amount of paint, and move relatively quickly. It is important to note that I divided the background into 4 different sections. One is a pastel pink, the other is a more darker pink, maybe hot pink, the other is a pastel purple, and then a pastel blue. These represent my favorite colors, and I believed that they were very cohesive together and brought the entire painting as a whole. However, you can choose whichever colors you have access to or what gives you pleasure for the painting. And I think that does it. I enjoyed my final outcome, and this painting holds a lot of significance to me. I hope you guys enjoyed watching this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel if you want to see more content like this, and comment down below what you'd like to see next. Thank you!